So the question is, will the impossible happen? Will Richard Hart's PulseChain have a decentralized stablecoin? And will Pdai, along with all the other assets that they can kind of arbitrage across it into, reach a pegged value of $1? How, you say, can you do this? Well, it seems as if the Atropa contract has been renounced and has been utilizing metrics to launch around, I think, 42 contracts, and using pretty much how Hex pumped, right? Pretty much fake money to pump Pdai. And since it's pumping Pdai and the Pdai contract, you can arbitrage and mint Pdai for 1 USDC or 1 USDT, etc. So it's having to pull all those assets up. And whenever people say that it needs 3 billion to be a stablecoin as collateralized 1-for-1, not an algorithmic stablecoin, doesn't. But how do you pull the value out? You say, we won't at first. We just won't. Just like people from Hex and stuff like that. Just like how Hex did a 10,000X, right? And now it's way down here. But Hex didn't have a secondary asset helping control it, didn't have its own chain, and it didn't have the narrative of, had the narrative of 10,000X, which is why it's odd that it hit exactly 10,000X, right? So by utilizing different LPs inside LPs, so it's pretty much round 2 now, and they're literally launched another contract called like 2 with a circle around it, and is acting much like Atropa, and he's launching a bunch of contracts pretty much that are just very low liquidity and using them to pump other assets, and every layer down is a multiplier pretty much onto Atropa's value, along with Atropa buying and accumulating Pdai. And we've seen how Atropa can pretty much set itself to buy Atropa up to a certain price and then turn the contract almost to a point to where it won't buy a contract over a certain price. Now, we saw another contract called MV that launched, and people that played round 1 right were given an unlimited mint function on that contract. And as that happened, they drained the dev wallet, drained the liquidity. A lot of people got wrecked. Well, it's risky. I still think MV has a part within the ecosystem. It might mint forever, right? It might be a forever mint token, and he might take that token and pair it with certain tokens throughout the ecosystem. And by doing so, he can mint and continue to mint to make larger and larger supply. And if it rebased, it would be a little bit different, because if he could rebase that asset, he could literally rebase the liquidity pool too. And by doing so, it would push the other assets up, right? I don't think there's a rebase inside that. Instead, it's just a mint. And the mint itself, I believe, just goes to the wallet that mints it, rather than just like circulating, actual supply being, different than rebase. So how can it reach $1? Well, it's going to take time, number one. Not necessarily economic energy, though. But it will reach $1. And then once it does, Atropa will continue to kick in. In my opinion, Atropa will be a Fiat on and off ramp. And we've seen Blockbend, maybe they're behind it. We don't know who's behind it. We've seen Blockbend already working on a few things, as well as a privacy bridge. And we've also seen money come in through this privacy bridge, as well as, millions of dollars. In one day, the total value locked on chain over doubled. Went from 117 million on chain to, I believe, 280 million one day, right? There's a lot of hype around it. It's bringing a lot of people in, as well as a lot of OG haters, which is fine. They made a lot of money in Hex. They would rather Hex reach $1 than this. But as unfortunate as that might be, RH behind it or not, the contract seems to be working and operating pretty efficiently and benevolently. And in my opinion, it has a lot of RH type things, but of course he's not going to speak upon it. In my opinion, that's bullish because he spent years and years and years always warning people of scams, whether they were his product or not, right? And it's just perfect timing, right? The SEC goes after his alter egos, and then all of a sudden, Atropa launches, which they don't know about, haven't attacked. It's a copy of Pdai. It's like you go after PulseChain, and now something like this happens, and then it's anonymous. Of course, he's not going to speak on it because he can't. So we will see, but there's a lot of indicators about what's going on here. And like I said, it's going to reach $1. But how do we get to where we need to get? Well, Fiat on-ramp. And he's still sitting on, 400 million Dai, if not more. That alone would help out a lot in the collateralizing it and being able to actually put $1 value in and get $1 value out. But with the Fiat on-ramp, right, and the narrative of this even getting close to $1, right, and then reaching $1, and once that happens, over time, we'll probably be able to take our Pdai and do something with it, pair it, to try, people within the ecosystems are going to start utilizing Pdai, right? We might see farms get created. We're going to see front ends being built by the community. Right now, everything's being backdoored, probably for good reason. Or is it a malicious actor? Or is it because the SEC is breathing down his neck? And, he's not going to talk. And again, the fact that he hasn't brought it up, still bullish, because he has been super active. And a guy like him has connections to devs, I'm not leaning into any of the other stuff about, he said this during an AMA, and I'm going to read into that. I'm strictly going off of the way that this contract seems to be operating. And, the fact that it just continues to do things. And this, like I said, the way the chain itself is operating, it's gobbled up 14% of the supply. Ever since it renounced the contract, it seemed to have gone into beast mode. And then around 2 days ago, like I said, it had like a weird function that it just, it swapped and started doing something else. Almost to where it's like it was, with buys, it was pushing the price down. So yeah, people are still going to dump. People are going to say it's not going to happen. But it is. It's going to reach $1. But will we get the actual one-to-one collateralized, effort? I don't know. Because people are going to start dumping it early on. And maybe we'll have the Fiat on-ramp occurring at that time. Or will we wait for it to reach $1? And then with that, once that happens, I believe that's the reason for Atropa is a private Fiat on and off ramp. And with that, we will be able to definitely get to that mark we need. And also, since we have multiple stablecoins rising, there could be another point in time where maybe we get them all 3 to 30 cents. And then somehow, boom, we combine them into one big, giant protocol. A lot of people are like, well, why would he use Pdai? Why would he just copy Pdai? Why would he use the copy Pdai and this and that? Well, one, he owns a bunch of it. Two, it's a copy. And we also saw someone go in to the Pdai contract using MakerDAO tokens, that's something like that, and then be able to manipulate it and change it to where it could be collateralized with Pulse. And that's another thing that we're seeing. We're seeing this fake value that's being generated out of thin air, much how like Pulse works. Our Hex went up. The money generated out of the gains generated out of thin air, which he knows he can do. But it just doesn't have these types of mechanics because it didn't have its own chain. Now it does. And I'm sure people will catch on to how this works. And the same systems can be utilized with Hex. Right? And PulseChain. So, at the moment, people are sitting on the sidelines speculating or hating. At the end of the day, it's bringing people in. It seems benevolent. And if it doesn't rug and no one runs off with the money, it will reach $1. Just it's gonna happen. I've seen an algorithmic stablecoin reach $1 million. 700, it was like 1 million, 1.7 million. That was the entire boom, and then just poof, right? And it just went straight up. It never went down. How? Not a positive rebase, but a negative rebase. So there are tokenomics that do things that, that can fool you and actually control the chart, control the price. Think about something like Ampleforth, which is a stable coin. On day one, went to $40. And they're like, well, people got wrecked. No, they didn't, because it went back to $1, and then everyone got 40x more supply. So Ampleforth in and of itself has volatile supply, not volatile price action. It's just how it works. So you get more or less supply based on if it goes up and over $1. And that's much like how Atropa, what Atropa is going to do once this thing pegs, and once we have enough collateral to be able for people to be able to withdraw, Atropa will be gathering and gobbling up, so it doesn't go to $2, right? It'll gobble up the extra, pumping Atropa back up, and continue to pump Atropa. Will we need 3 billion? I don't think so. I think there's going to be more to it than that, as far as Pdai itself. But yeah, I mean, we, technically, I guess we could mint more Pdai as more dollars come in. But I don't know if we can mint, change the contract the way that it is. And I think that's what Atropa is going to do. I think Atropa will, if a bunch of people start throwing a bunch of money in, it's going to filter through Atropa. And if it's, and then come back to Atropa. Now, MV, a lot of people got wrecked, but I still think it's going to be the gas token of the chain. Right? So, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, rig? Rig service, right? What do you mean by that? Well, I mean, every token mint, it needs to equal what the gas price is. So, technically, you should be able to go to look at MV and know what the gas price is, if it's 1 mint per gas. Now, there's going to be fighting for some people through the validators and other people to push the price up. And then once it goes up too high or whatever, it'll then get minted to drop it back down. Because if you can mint them for more than the gas, you're making money, right? So, of course, that's how it's going to work. But then you're going to be fighting the validators who want that token to go up. So if it drops below the price of gas, you're not going to mint that because it's going to cost you too much to mint it. You're losing money if you're minting tokens if it's under the price of the gas, right? So then, buy pressure happens. Brilliant, you say. So we'll see. And I also think MV can do a lot of things. MV could, since he's minting a bunch of it, and other people's can mint it too, he could take that token, and I think I talked about a little bit more about this earlier, and being able to make a bunch of pairs, and then pump that shit out of it, and technically if he, lays the LP ratios a certain way, it would pump every token or dump every token. Technically, he could kind of whizzle his way around that, because the way these things are all intertwined and interconnected, it's just like mini Atropa contracts paired with many other zeroed assets that act like Pdai did at the very beginning, which is what it was accumulating for a long time. And right now it's around 14% of the supply. Eventually it's going to just ramp up and continue to ramp up. And especially as more and more people get in and these haters stop hating and fudding it and getting people to dump their bags, like this other blockchain trends guy who copied my Telegram group and had a couple people to sell actually and got them wrecked. But yeah, we'll follow along with it closely, and I'll update you guys sooner than later. Y'all all have a good one, man. Take it easy.